Hello everybody and welcome back to Boyographic, a show in which I, Matt, the Game Boy, occasionally take you through the highs and lows of the Game Boy library one cart at a time. Yeah, it's been a while, I apologise. This week we're looking at a pretty chill title. It's called Mario's Picross. Sitting around the house gives you a lot of time to think. Sometimes even questions arise as you scroll through Twitter, like, is Tenskritty just black magic? Would Weetabix and lemon curd make a good breakfast combination? And even, should the 1986 Transformers movie have been the real wake-up call the Oscars needed to introduce the Best Animated Picture category? I'm sure you've asked yourself these very same questions over the last couple of days, and I'm here to tell you with good authority that the answers are, of course, no, and without a shadow of a doubt. But once we've unpacked these great riddles of the universe, even trickier questions tend to arise. Questions like, where do puzzles come from? Naturally, someone had to design them, and in the case of nonograms, that happened within the last couple of decades. Much like Sudoku, nonograms are math-based grid puzzles that became popular in Japan in the late 80s. However, unlike Sudoku, whose modern interpretation was designed by an American architect in the late 70s as a puzzle, the Nomograms Story is a little bit different. After winning a contest to make a design with lit and unlit windows on an apartment building, Japanese designer Non Ishita began to design a type of puzzle that tasked the player with filling in a grid to reveal a picture. She created several of these puzzles and showed them to British puzzle enthusiast James Dolgetty, who helped her to get them published in Britain. When these puzzles first debuted in 1994, they were called nonograms, a portmanteau of non's name and pictogram. Now, almost 30 years later, these original nonograms go by a few different names. After Non Ishita stopped designing the puzzles, The Telegraph held a competition and renamed them Gridlers, but you might have known them as Paint by Numbers, or even by their other Japanese name, Oekaki, the name given to them by Japanese puzzle master Tetsuya Nishio, who, unfortunately for him, pretty much invented nonograms at the same time as Non Ishita. More likely than not, though, you Game Boys and girls know nonograms as Picross, which is how I've always referred to this kind of puzzle thanks to Nintendo and Jupiter's long-running series of games with the same name. While looking for puzzle games to be the next Tetris, Nintendo noticed the nonogram's growing popularity outside of Japan and decided to strike while the iron was hot with their own game based on the concept. Not being able to call the puzzles nonograms simply meant Nintendo needed to come up with a term of their own for the concept. So, as Nintendo are wont to do, they made a portmanteau of their own from picture and crossword to make Picross. Now, all it needed was a sprinkle of Mario, and they were off to the races. Mario's Picross saw its worldwide release in 1995, and as you can probably tell from such a long preamble, it's a pretty straightforward game. For those of you who've never played Picross before, never fear, because while the game does come with a very well done tutorial, it is a pretty straightforward concept. The goal of a nonogram is to fill in a square grid to make a picture. You do this by looking at the numbers alongside the grid, which inform you how many squares are coloured in on each line, both horizontally and vertically. Sometimes these lines will have more than one number in them, like 3 and 1, which essentially means the line has a block of 3 coloured squares, a space, and then a single coloured block. Anytime you see multiple numbers, there must always be at least one space between them. Using this information, you work to fill the grid out and reveal the picture. Pretty simple, right? Yes, folks, other than using the D-pad to move around the grid, A lets Mario mark a block, while B adds a little X to a space you think should remain blank. By cross-referencing these two things, you can slowly work your way through the puzzle and reveal all sorts of pixely pictures. You can hold down either button to make a larger line quickly, but honestly, with the amount of times I lost precious minutes doing this, I wouldn't recommend it. The only thing you need to really contend with is the time limit, as each puzzle has a 30-minute timer to add a little spice to things. Marking one wrong square removes 2 minutes from the clock. A second mistake removes 4, while a third and every subsequent mistake removes 8 minutes apiece, meaning you can't mess up more than 5 times before it's game over. The game features an easy mode for players new to the idea of Picross that ramps up from a 5x5 grid to a 10x10 grid before letting the player face the challenge of a 15x15 square puzzle in the hard mode. There's also an unlockable time trial mode for the sadist among you, but as the puzzles didn't let you know if you marked the right or wrong spaces, I didn't find it all that much fun to play. That's all there really is to this game. It's 256 Picross puzzles set to some pretty nice music from Toshiyuki Ueno. Sure, the sprite work of Explorer Mari and the pseudo-Egyptian trappings around the edge of some of the puzzles look nice, but the main draw here is the puzzles themselves. The gameplay being pretty straightforward makes this a flawless experience, even if the pictures produced by the puzzles sometimes feel a little uninspired. It's also just noting that yes, there are some differences between the Japanese and worldwide release of the game, but this just means a few puzzles are switched out either because Western audiences wouldn't know, for example, what a shogi piece looks like, or, heaven forbid, a child sees a pixelated wine glass. All in all, I think Mario Picross is a fun little game that I'm sure you've already decided if you'll be into by now. The level of challenge ramps up pretty fairly, the music is very relaxing, and it managed to make me forget there was a global panic going on for a little while by making my brain focus on colouring in teeny tiny little squares. If that's the kind of escapism you need right now, why not give Mario Picross a try? For those without a cart, Mario Picross is available on the 3DS eShop, and in an act of pure serendipity, Picross 4 will be releasing on the Nintendo Switch on the 23rd of April. I, for one, will be picking it up as, hey, it sure beats thinking about the world outside right now. And that brings us on a rather sombre note to the end of another Boyographic, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed. If you have, please leave a comment down below, and I will see you next week for another episode of Boyographic. Until then, though, Game Boys and Girls, be sure, as always, to game on.